Are you online, speaker? You can start.
Mataji can hear me.
Hare Krishna.
Oh yeah, Hare Krishna.
You can start with the invocation when you're ready.
Oh yeah, what is the invocation?
In Gaza and Israel, which 41% of British Pakistanis and Bangladeshis marked as a priority. Now, we've previously heard on how
Oh, I can't hear you, Mataji.
When you're ready, you can start with the recitation, text 10 to 29. Start with the invocation when you're ready. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So you can start whenever you're ready with the invocation.
Okay. Sachapi yatra purusho vishvastityudbhavapyayaha mukvatma maya maye saha sete sarva guhasayaha.
Hare Krishna. Please also explain the personality of Godhead, who lies in every heart as the Supersoul, and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy.
Purushavayave lokaha sapala purvakalpitaha lokeramushavayavaha saparailiti shushrumaha.
O learned Brahmana, it was formerly explained that all the planets of the universe, with their respective governors, are situated in the different parts of the gigantic body of the Virat Purusa. I have also heard that the different planetary systems are supposed to be in the gigantic body of the Virat Purusa. But what is their actual position? Will you please explain that?
Yavan kalpo vikalpo va yata kalo numiyate bhuta bhavya bhavak chabda ayurvanam chayatsataha.
Also, please explain the duration of time between creation and annihilation, and that of other subsidiary creations, as well as the nature of time, indicated by the sound of past, present, and future. Also, please explain the duration and measurement of life of the different living beings known as the demigods, the human beings, etc., in different planets of the universe.
Kala shanu gatiryatu lakshate dviprati api yavatya karma ghatayo yadrasi dvijasattamaha.
O purest of the Brahmanas, please also explain the cause of the different durations of time, both short and long, as well as the beginning of time, following the course of action.
Yasmin karma samavayo yatayeno pagruhyate gunanam guninam chaiva parinamam abhipsatam.
Then again, kindly describe how the proportionate accumulation of the reactions resulting from the different modes of material nature acts upon the desiring living being, promoting or degrading him among the different species of life, beginning from the demigods down to the most insignificant creatures.
Upatala kakupyoma graha बुभ्रतां सरित् संवृत्वद्वीपानां सम्भवश्चैतरोकाशाम्.
O best of the Brahmanas, please also describe how the creation of the globes throughout the universe, the four directions of the heavens, the sky, the planets, the stars, the mountains, the rivers, the seas and the islands, as well as their different kinds of inhabitants take place.
प्रमाणामन्दकोशस्य बाह्याभ्यन्तरभेदतः महतां कानुचारितं वर्णाश्रमाविनिश्चयः.
Also, please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of the different classifications of the castes and orders of social life.
And yeah. Hare Krishna, stop.
युगानि युगमानं च धर्मोऽयश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यदाश्चर्यतमं हरेः.
Please explain all the different ages in the duration of the creation, and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages.
नूनां साधरणो धर्मः सविशेषश्च यात्सरः श्रेणीनां राजसीनां च धर्माकृत्येषु जीविताम्.
Please also explain what may generally be the common religious affiliations of human society, as well as their specific occupational duties in religion, the classification of the social orders, as well as the administrative royal orders, and the religious principles for one who may be in distress.
तत्त्वानां परिसङ्ख्यानं लक्षणं हेतुलक्षणं पुरुषाराधनाभिधि योगस्यादात्मिकस्य च.
Kindly explain all about the elementary principles of creation, the number of such elementary principles, their causes and their development, and also the process of devotional service and the method of mystic powers.
योगेश्वरैश्वर्यगाति लिङ्गभङ्गस्तु योगिनां वेदोपवेदधर्माणाम् इतिहासपुराणयोः.
What are the opulences of the great mystics, and what is their ultimate realization? How does the perfect mystic become detached from the subtle astral body? What is the basic knowledge of the Vedic literatures, including the branches of history and the supplementary Puranas?
सम्प्लव सर्वभूतानां विक्रमः परिसङ्क्रमः इष्टापूर्तस्य काम्यानां त्रिवर्गस्य च यो विधिः.
Please explain unto me how the living beings are generated, how they are maintained, and how they are annihilated, Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service unto the Lord. What are the Vedic rituals and injunctions of the supplementary Vedic rites? And what are the procedures of religion, economic development, and sense satisfaction?
यो वानुसायिनां सर्गः पाण्डस्य च सम्भवः आत्मनो बन्धमोक्षौ च व्यवस्थानां स्वरूपतः.
Please also explain how, merged in the body of the Lord, living beings are created, and how the infidels appear in the world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist.
यतात्मतन्थरो भगवान् विक्रीतात्यात्ममायया विसृज्य वायता मायाम् उदास्ते साक्षिवान् विभुः.
The independent personality of Godhead enjoys his pastimes by his internal potency, and at the time of annihilation gives them up to the external potency, and he remains a witness to it all.
सर्वमेतच्च भगवान् पृच्छतो मेऽनुपुरुषवः तत्त्वतरस्य उत्तर्तुं प्रपन्नाय महामुने.
O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you, and all that I may not have inquired from you, from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection.
अत्र प्रमाणं हि भावान् परमेष्टि आत्मभूः अपरे चान्दुति सन्ति पूर्वेषां पूर्वजैः कृतम्.
O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow custom only, as followed by the previous philosophical speculators.
न मे शवः परायन्ति ब्रह्मन् अनशनारमि पिबतोच्युत पीयूषं तद्वाक्याप्ति विनिश्रितम्.
O learned Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting.
Sut uvacha सौपामन्त्रितो राज्ञा दत्तायामिति सत्पतेः ब्रह्मरातो ब्रसम्प्रीतो विष्णुरातेन सांसरी.
Sutta Goswami said, thus Sukadeva Goswami, being invited by Maharaja Pariksit to speak on topics of the Lord Sri Krishna with the devotees, was very much pleased.
Praha Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Sammitam Brahmane Bhagavat Proktam Brahma Kalpa Upagate.
He began to reply to the inquiries of Maharaja Pariksit by saying that the science of the personality of Godhead was spoken first by the Lord himself to Brahma when he was first born. Srimad Bhagavatam is the supplementary Vedic literature, and it is just in pursuance of the Vedas.
Yat yat parikshit rishabha pandunamanu आनुपूर्व्येण तत्सर्वम् आज्ञातुम् उपचाक्रमे.
He also prepared himself to reply to all that King Pariksit had inquired from him. Maharaja Pariksit was the best in the dynasty of the Pandavas, and thus he was able to ask the right questions from the right person. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful recitations. Jyoti Mataji, can I share my screen?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. So I guess everyone can see the screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you. So today we will be going through the 3 verses from the 8th chapter, 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And okay, let's start. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Yam Pravrajantamanupetumupetu Krityam Dvaipayano Virahkatar Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayatayo Taravo Vinedustam Sarvabhutardayam Munimanatosmi. So let's chant the verse and go through the translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sarvametaccha Bhagavan Prachyato Menu Purvashaha Tattvator Harasyudar Daharatur Prapannaya Mahamune. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. Purport. The spiritual master is always prepared to impart knowledge to the disciple, and specifically when the disciple is very inquisitive. Inquisitiveness on the part of a disciple is greatly necessary for the progressive disciple. Maharaj Parikshit is a typical disciple because he is perfectly inquisitive. If one is not very inquisitive about self-realization, one need not approach a spiritual master simply to make a show of discipleship. Not only is Maharaj Parikshit inquisitive concerning all he has inquired about, but he is also anxious to know about what he has not been able to inquire. Factually, it is not possible for a man to inquire about everything from the spiritual master, but the bona fide spiritual master is able to enlighten the disciple in every way for the disciple's benefit. Let's go to the next verse. Atta pramanam hi bhavan parameshthi yatatmabuh apare chanutishtanti purvesham purvajaihi kritam. Translation. O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow custom only, as followed by the previous philosophical speculators. Purport. It may be argued that Shukdev Goswami is not only authority of perfect knowledge in transcendence, because there are many other sages and their followers. contemporary to Vyasadeva, or even prior to him, there were many other great sages such as Gautama, Kanada, Jaimini, Kapila, and Ashtavakra. And all of them have presented a philosophical path by themselves. Patanjali is also one of them. So Prabhupada is basically giving an idea of 6 schools of Vedic philosophy, the Sanatana philosophy. And all these great 6 sages, great rishis, have their own way of thinking, exactly like the modern philosophers and mental speculators. The difference between the 6 philosophical paths put forward by the renowned sages above mentioned and that of Shukdev Goswami, as presented in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is that all the 6 sages mentioned above speak the facts according to their own thinking. But Shukdev Goswami presents the knowledge which comes down directly from Brahmaji, who is known as Atmabhuhu, or born of and educated by Almighty, the personality of Godhead. Vedic transcendental knowledge descends directly from the personality of Godhead. By his mercy, Brahma, the first living being in the universe, was enlightened, and from Brahmaji, Narad was enlightened, and from Narad, Vyasa was enlightened. Shukdev Goswami received such transcendental knowledge directly from his father, Vyasadeva. Thus, the knowledge being received from the chain of disciplic succession is perfect. One cannot be a spiritual master in perfection unless and until one has received the same by disciplic succession. That is the secret of receiving transcendental knowledge. The 6 great sages mentioned above may be great thinkers, but their knowledge by mental speculation is not perfect. However perfect an empiric philosopher may be in presenting the philosophical thesis, such knowledge is never perfect because it is produced by an imperfect mind. Such great sages also have their disciplic successions, but they are not authorized because such knowledge does not come directly from the independent supreme personality of Godhead, Narayan. No one can be independent except Narayan. Therefore, no one's knowledge can be perfect, for everyone's knowledge is dependent on the flickering mind. Mind is material, and thus knowledge presented by material speculators is never transcendental and can never become perfect. Mundane philosophers, being imperfect in themselves, disagree with other philosophers because a mundane philosopher is not a philosopher at all unless he presents his own theory. Intelligent persons like Maharaj Parikshit do not recognize such mental speculators, however great they may be, but hear from the authorities like Shukdev Goswami, who is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the Parampara system, and especially stressed in Bhagavad Gita, where Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya. We will go to that verse very soon. So, okay. I think I have already opened that tab here. Name Savaha Parayanti Brahmanana Shanadami Pibato Chutapiyusham Tadvakya Vini Smrutam Ashrutam. O learned Brahman, because of my drinking of the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting. Purport. The disciplic succession from Brahma, Narad, Vyasa, and Shukdev Goswami is particularly different from others. The disciplic successions from other sages are simply a waste of time, being devoid of Achyuta Katha, or the message of the infallible Lord. The mental speculators can present their theories very nicely by reason and arguments, but such reasons and arguments are not infallible, for they are defeated by better mental speculators. Maharaj Parikshit was not interested in the dry speculation of the flickering mind, but he was interested in the topic of the Lord because factually he felt that by hearing such a nectarian message from the mouth of Shukdev Goswami, he was not feeling any exhaustion. Even though he was fasting because of his imminent death, one can indulge in hearing the mental speculators, but such hearing cannot endure for any length of time. One will be exhausted very soon from hearing such hackneyed way of thinking. And no one in the world can be satisfied simply by hearing such useless speculation. The message of the Lord, especially from a personality like Shukdev Goswami, can never be tiring, even though one may be exhausted from other causes. In some editions of Srimad Bhagavatam, the text of the last line of this verse leads Anyatra Kupita Dvijar, which means that the king might be overwhelmed by the thought of his imminent death by snake bite. The snake is also twice born, and its anger is compared to the cursing Brahmana boy who was without good intelligence. Maharaj Parikshit was not at all afraid of death, for he was fully encouraged by the message of the Lord. One who is fully absorbed in Achyuta Katha can never be afraid of anything in this world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So let's chant our invocation and we will start our discussions. Om Ajnantimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam स अद्वैतम स अवधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे अजामिलंबित भुजौ कनकावदातो संकीर्तने कवितरो कमलायताक्षम् विश्वम्भरो द्विजभरो युगधर्मपालो वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरो करुणावतारो योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचं मां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्य अखिलशक्तिधरस्वरं अन्यंश्च हस्तचरणात् श्रवणात् प्रगादे प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्. So let's go to the first verse. सर्वमेतच्च भगवन् पृच्छतो मेनु पूर्वशः तत्त्वतोर् Hasyudahartur Prapannaya Mahamune. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. So, this tells us the mood of a first-class disciple. Parikshit Maharaj is no doubt is a first-class disciple, and the way the wording of this verse says it shows his humility, but at the same time, his inquisitiveness, his thirst to listen, to absorb Krishna Katha constantly. And that's what the mood of that disciple is, it shows here in this verse. Sarvam etaccha bhagavan pruchhato menu purvashaha. He's saying, all that, every inquiry, what I had till now, and which I have missed. That's what he's saying in the second line. Tattvator hasyudar hartur prapannaya mahamuni. So he's tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. What that verse says, that is tadvidhi, and the person who has seen the truth. Pranipata. Pranipat means you have to literally dandavat. You have to fall down like a stick. Surrender your existence, your prana. The pranipatena, pariprashnena sevaya. Pari means across. With that mood of service, you should inquisitively inquire. Service, the surrender. Pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshanti te jnanam. And at that point of time, when your spiritual master is pleased, when your teacher is pleased, that person with the same enthusiasm, with that love, he will feed our hunger for Krishna Katha, for understanding the knowledge. If there is no humility and if there is arrogance, that yes, whenever we are listening to Krishna Katha, if there is a mood of arrogance and saying that yes, he's wrong and I will correct him, so then the person will not understand the crux, the mood of what is the mood of bhakti. And once in a lecture I heard, and I think it is there in a Bhakti Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami. Out of Shad Sandarbha, there are 6 Sandarbhas, starting with Tattva Sandarbha and then Paramatma Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha and all that. And then last 2 are the one which give us the higher principle, which is Priti Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha and Priti Sandarbha. So in that, Jiva Goswami, he gives a very beautiful description of who is the carrier of the Lord and his incarnation. So we all know that Garuda Dev is the carrier of the Lord, of Vishnu or Krishna. So Garuda Dev is, when he is flying, the sound of his wings is nothing but Vedic hymns. Who is the carrier of Mother Lakshmi? Anyone knows? Does anyone know who? Like Ganesha is the one.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Is it alligator?
Sorry.
Alligator Prabhuji?
No. It's owl. Owl. Yes. So what does that represent? That if Mother Lakshmi, if we try to worship on her own without Narayan, that carrier will deceive us. Means it will bring us to the ignorance, and only that owl, what is the characteristic of owl? It can see during night time. And in daytime, when everything is, it's a mode of goodness starts, owl goes for rest. So what it tells us that whenever we worship Mother Lakshmi on her own, it's the Srila Radhanath Maharaj says that it's a perfect Ravan mentality. We don't want the Lord, but we just want the opulence of the Lord. So, and that's why the carrier of Mother Lakshmi will bewilder us, and that owl will give us an idea that we are the proprietors. I am the controller. And that is why Lakshmi Devi, what will she love? When a devotee worships her with her husband. Lakshmi Narayan worship has to be there all the time. And that is why in our philosophy, we always worship the energetic and the energy of the Lord. The owner of that Urja, the energy, and Urja herself. And that is why Sandhini, Savvit, Ladini, that is the technical details we come across explained by Srila Shukdev Goswami in later. So this is the mood. We were talking about the Tadvidhi Pranipatena, Pariprashnena Sevaya. Upadekshanti te jnanam, jnaninas tattvadarshina. So the mood, who is the carrier of Bhakti Devi, of Radharani? Does anyone know? Who carries Bhakti? The personification of Bhakti is, we can say Bhakti Devi ki jai when we say Prema Dhwani prayers. We start with Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Shtautra Sat Shriman Shri Abhay Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And then we start our rest of the Prema Dhwani prayers. So Bhakti Devi ki jai. Who is the carrier of that Bhakti Devi? Does anyone know? That carrier is yes, Mataji? Hare Krishna. The carrier of Bhakti Devi is the heart of a pure devotee. And because she resides in the heart of a pure devotee, naturally that it's the congenial heart. Wherever there is a devotion, Bhakti Devi enters in the heart of that devotee. Whomever has that purity, Bhakti Devi enters in the heart of that devotee. And that's what Srila Shukadeva Goswami, Jiva Goswami explains that very beautifully in the Bhakti Sandarbha as well as in Priti Sandarbha in different contexts. So let's come back. So the last part of Pariprashnena Sevaya, Upadekshanti te jnanam, because that realized person, the spiritual master, he will give the Upadesh because that Bhakti Devi is residing in the heart of that spirit, of that great personality. And that is, you can see that in case of Shukadeva Goswami, in all these three verses, the way Prabhupada emphasizes on why recitation and why the spiritual master like Shukadeva Goswami is such a great personality. Why person should listen to someone like Shukadeva Goswami? Because that Bhakti Devi, she resides in the heart of such a great devotee of a Mahajan. And Jnaninas Tattvadarshina, and in that mood, he will show the right path to the disciple. And that's the background of that verse. Now, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a amazing verse. And that verse is like this. Shaucham tapastiksham chamonam swadhyayam arjavam Brahmacharya ahimsam cha samatvam dvandva sanyayoho. What that verse means, the translation is, to serve the spiritual master, the disciple should learn cleanliness, austerity, tolerance, silence, study of Vedic knowledge, simplicity, celibacy, non-violence, and equanimity in the face of material dualities such as heat, cold, happiness, and distress. So this is the qualification of an proper disciple, of a first-class disciple who is following these principles, these qualities, who has these qualities and following it very diligently. So that is the so what this is telling us. Who would like to read this? This is a very, very beautiful purport Prabhupada has given here. Who would like to read this? It's a bit long purport, but it's worth going through because we all are aspiring to be proper first-class disciples. So, are there any volunteers to read?
I can read. I can try.
Yeah, of course, Mataji. Please do.
Socham or cleanliness refers to both internal and external purity. One should remain externally clean by bathing with soap and water at least once, and if possible, 3 times daily. One is considered internally pure when he is free from the pollution of false pride and egotism. Tapa or austerity means that despite the irrational impulses of the mind, one should remain fixed in executing his proper duty in life. Specifically, one must control burning anger and the urge for wanton sex life. If a human being does not control the impulses of lust, anger, and greed, he loses his power to understand his actual situation. Human life is a golden opportunity to solve the overwhelming problems of birth, death, old age, and disease. According to Vishnu Puran 389.9, Vanashamachar Vata Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Aradhete Pantha Nanyat Tatstosa Karanam. Every human being can achieve spiritual perfection by dedicating the fruits of his prescribed work to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita 18.45, Lord Krishna clearly states...
Let's Mataji, let's go to this verse as well. Because here,
Nanyat
Tosha Karanam means Tosha means to be satisfied. And this 1845 will give us Sve Sve Karmanya Bhirataha Samsiddhim Labhate Nara. Swakarma Nirataha Siddhim Yatha Vidanti Tachrunu. We have to listen. So, yeah, Mataji, you can read the translation.
By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done.
Yeah. And then if we go to the next verse here, by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. And then later on, Lord starts giving the details of it is better to engage in one occupation. Basically, why 18th chapter gives us the how 18th chapter gives us the summary of all the 17 chapters. That's how it starts. That's what we can see in all this. So let's go back to this verse because this is very, very important purport. So Mataji, you can continue reading from every human being.
Every human being can achieve spiritual perfection by dedicating the fruits of his prescribed work to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita 18.45, Lord Krishna clearly states, Swase karmani avirata samsiddhim labhate naraha. One does not have to adopt a monastic life or live in a forest or as a yogi. One can achieve perfection by dedicating his professional duties to the Supreme Lord. Similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, Namashaya kari yatane tumi takkal apane kaje. Even sincerely takes shelter of the holy names of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He will achieve spiritual perfection within the compass of his normal daily activities. Unfortunately, if a human being neglects the regulatory principles of civilized life that prohibits illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling, he will surely be overwhelmed by the waves of lust and anger, which completely cover one's consciousness of the reality of spiritual life and draw one to engage in the phantasmagoria
Phantasmagoria.
of the temporary material body. As Lord Krishna has stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.39, Avrutam nanam etena nanino nitya varirana kama rupena konteya duspuren nanelen cha. Thus a pure
Thus, a
thus
man's
a
pure
man's pure consciousness covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Therefore, the word tapa or austerity in this word indicates that one must remain in his prescribed duty and not become impatient or unregulated due to the waves of lust, anger, and greed.
Yeah.
The word titiksham or tolerance indicates that a transcendentalist must be forgiving. The material world is full of embarrassing and irritating situations, and unless one is inclined to be very much forgiving, he will become infected by a vindictive mentality, which spoils one's spiritual consciousness. Mourning or silence means that one should not speak on worthless or frivolous topics, but should discuss the actual issues of human life, such as going back to Godhead. Remaining completely silent is a symptom of ignorance. A stone is silent due to a lack of consciousness. Since every material thing has its spiritual counterpart, the Vedic Shastras contain negative and positive injunctions. Corresponding to the negative injunction against speech is the positive injunction that one should always speak that Krishna. One should always speak about Krishna. Satatam Kartaniyomam. One should always speak about the supreme purpose of glorifying his holy name, fame, pastimes, entourage, and so on. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also it is stated, Sotavya Prititavyascha Teya Pujasya Nityada. One should always hear about, glorify, meditate upon, and worship the supreme personality of Godhead Krishna. In the verse 21 of this chapter, it was stated, Sabde Parecha Nisnatam. The bona fide spiritual master is expert in Sabde Pare, or the transcendental sound vibration describing the spiritual world. One cannot artificially remain empty-headed or speechless, as educated by foolish proponents of concrete systems of meditation and yoga. But one should be so absorbed in the loving service of Krishna and so lovingly attracted to praising Krishna that one has not a single moment free to speak nonsense. That is the purport of the word monam. Swadhyayam means that one should study Vedic literature according to his individual ability and also teach others. In Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that a Brahman should have the qualities of Jnana and Vijnana, scriptural knowledge, application of knowledge. Specifically, one should study those books which increase one's desire to serve the supreme personality of Godhead. His divine grace, Om Vishnupat Paramhans Parivajakacharya Asto Sat Sri Shamad Bhagavad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has written in a few short years a veritable library of transcendental knowledge. It is being practically seen throughout the world that when the principle of Swadhyayam or Vedic study is applied to these books such as Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Chaitanya Charitna, and the Nectar of Devotion, the sincere reader becomes infused with the ecstatic determination to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness is expanding all over the world on the basis of this transcendental literature. Swadhyaya does not indicate speculative or imaginary interpretation of religious scriptures, nor should one try to read many books to increase his false prestige as a so-called scholar. One should read those books which inspire practical spiritual advancement in knowledge and renunciation, exemplified by the books of Srila Prabhupada. The word Arjvam indicates simplicity or straightforwardness. According to Sri Sridhar Swami Swachapam, or clarity transfers is a synonym for straightforwardness. Unless one is pure in conscience, you will have many crooked means. Straightforwardness does not indicate that one should insult others in the name of holiness, but one should speak truth, the humble truth. The word brahmacharyam or celibacy indicates that either renouncing completely the association of women or following strictly the Vedic principles of household life, which regulated sex life for the purpose of procreating saintly children. Ahimsa indicates that one should not commit violence against a living entity unless one is aware of the subtle laws of karma by which a living being enjoys and suffers. One cannot actually practice ahimsa or non-violence. Ultimately, the material world is full of violence, and the law of nature which impose old age, disease, death upon every living are themselves filled with violence. Therefore, when somehow or other one can convince others to surrender Krishna and thus release themselves from the violence of material nature, that is the perfection of ahimsa.
Yeah.
Samatvam Dandva Samadnayo indicate that one should keep a cool head even when distributing material dualities become manifest. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Mata swasa tu konte sitasna sukha dukkada agama payino nityastam sitik swabharata. Osana kamti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness, disappearance in due course of time are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, ocean of Bharat, and one should learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Isn't that wonderful? The whole purport has extract from many of the Prabhupada's lectures, and it gives us the proper mood of Prabhupada. What it's a very instructive purport, very, very amazing. So that's why I thought of why not read it. Means it's something, sounds like summary of or transcription of Prabhupada's lectures. So let's go to, so that's the mood of the proper disciple. And let's go to the next verse. So here Prabhupada is introducing us about the importance of the school of bhakti. So we can quickly go through what are all the six schools of our orthodox schools of Indian philosophy. So those six personalities, they were also empowered great personalities. They were not some ordinary sages. Sankhya philosophy was presented by whom? Kapila Dev. Now, Sankhya philosophy is the oldest of the orthodox philosophical systems, and it postulates that everything in reality stems from Purusha. And in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we will come to that actual Lord Kapila Dev giving the details of Sankhya philosophy to his mother, Devavati. So it's a basically differentiation between Purusha and Prakriti. Self, soul, super soul, how mind works, and then Prakriti, the matter, the creative energy, and various forms of material energy. And that is why the verse Daivi Yasha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratya. So that's it's basically an expansion of Sankhya philosophy, or the expansion of this verse is there in the Sankhya philosophy. So then the second philosophy, which is given by whom? Patanjali Muni, Yoga. Yoga means, the literal meaning of yoga means a union of with an entity. So opposite of yoga is viyoga. Yoga, viyoga, addition and subtraction. If you have read about the Vedic mathematics, it starts with yoga, viyoga, and multiplication and subtraction is also a part of yoga, viyoga. So that is what Patanjali Muni tells us here. Basically the control of body, mind, and sense organs. And in the beginning of the yoga, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Patanjali Muni says that the purpose of my philosophy is to prepare the soul for surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus considered as a means of achieving the freedom from the clutches of this misery of the material world. But again, as philosophy, as Srila Prabhupada says in these purports, that these are great philosophies, but those are not complete. Those are incomplete. And that is why there is every room for mental speculation. So what all this freedom of for the mind is achieved by yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Yoga tells us how a person in samadhi can have that connection with the God. That to understand, to realize the God, we need to go through these processes of yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, and all that. So then comes Nyaya. Nyaya philosophy is written by Gautama Muni. What Nyaya is telling us is nothing is acceptable unless it is in accordance with the reason of experience. It's a very empiric type of approach. It's a very scientific type of approach. And hence Nyaya is considered as a technique for logical thinking. And that is why Nyaya Sutra says that there are 4 means of attaining valid knowledge: perception, inference, comparison, and verbal testimony. Obviously, as we can see here, if this is used on the path of bhakti, the person will have a proper rational thinking rather than becoming sahajiya or just emotionally getting empowered. So that is why, though these philosophies are incomplete, we will see that little later, why these philosophies are important, if those for us to understand when those are used in the right mood of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So next one, Nyaya was given by whom? Gautam Muni. And then there comes the Vaisheshika. Right now, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu is here, and we should understand a little bit about the importance of Vaisheshika philosophy. It is given by Kanad Rishi. Incredibly powerful philosophy. The basis of this school's philosophy is that all objects of the physical universe are reducible to a finite number of atoms, and Brahma is regarded as the fundamental force that causes consciousness in these atoms. The statement itself is very profound and complex as well. So Vaisheshika system is considered as the realistic and the objective philosophy of the universe. So those people, I think a few years back, I was talking to Gadadhar Prabhu, our earlier head pujari, and he was telling that one of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, Sadaputa Prabhu, he studied about this Sankhya and especially Vaisheshika philosophy, because he's a very scientific personality, incredibly intelligent person. So, and our Temple of Vedic Planetarium is using these principles of this philosophy while in the construction of the temple, in the presentation of our Vedic philosophy. The reality, according to this Vaisheshika philosophy, has many bases of or categories, which are substance, attribute, action, genus, distinct quality, and inherence. Vaisheshika thinkers believe that all objects of the universe are composed of 5 elements: Prithvi, Aap, Tej, Vayu, Akash, earth, fire, water, air, and ether. And the important principle is Vaisheshika philosophy firmly establishes and believes that for everything, all these 5 elements and the basis, the categories of substance, attribute, action, everything, the guiding principle behind that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is God. God is the guiding principles, and the living beings were rewarded or are rewarded or punished according to the law of karma, based on actions of merit and demerit. Now, Nyaya, if you remember what we briefly spoke about, Nyaya is technique of logical thinking. And so far in Vaisheshika, what we just went through is very logical. The different elements and the philosophy of the universe and the God is the principle behind it, as the famous scientist Newton, a lot of people say that he had an understanding of Vaisheshika philosophy. And eventually Vaisheshika and Nyaya schools, they were merged because of their close relation with the metaphysical theories. So far, till even afterwards as well, of that merger, Vaisheshika only accepted perception and inference as sources of valid knowledge. And that's why there was a merger. Now comes the Purva Mimamsa, which is given by Jaimini Rishi. This philosophy encompasses the Nyaya Vaisheshika systems and emphasizes the concept of Vedic knowledge. So now we can see here that all the philosophies, the oldest coming from Sankhya, and then Purva Mimamsa, and then comes later on others, great rishis, they came with Uttar Mimamsa and all that. But this Purva Mimamsa is actually the succession of Nyaya and Vaisheshika merger. And that's why this philosophy encompasses the Nyaya Vaisheshika systems and emphasizes the concept of Vedic valid knowledge. According to Purva Mimamsa, Vedas are eternal and possesses all knowledge. But in the from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what Lord says that Vedic philosophy, Vedic knowledge is a very flowery language. And Srila Prabhupada tells in some of his lectures that Vedic knowledge can be deceptive, because if we don't have the right mood of devotion and surrender, Sharanagati and Bhakti, Vedic knowledge will help us to remain in this material world perpetually. How to live the life very opulently, successfully, peacefully is given in the Vedic philosophy. And the same verse, when a bhakta, a devotee reads, that person will get an understanding of how to come out of this whole entanglement of the material world. So it's quite fascinating. It says that in a Purva Mimamsa, Jaimini Rishi says that the essence of Vedas is dharma. By the execution of dharma, one earns merit, which leads one to heaven after death. So, as we went through these 5 schools of philosophy, very convincing, very powerful, very logical, but those are not complete. Why? The reason is it doesn't give us the understanding of bhakti. It tells us the dependence on the philosophy, on guiding principle, God, Supreme Lord. But it doesn't talk about the personality of as a God. It just gives the principle that God is the guiding principle. And then comes Vedanta philosophy, which is given by, that is one of the Uttara Mimamsa, after Purva Mimamsa, and it is given by Vyasadeva. This school concentrates on the philosophical teachings of the Upanishads principally, and crest jewel of Upanishads is Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita. So as we can see, Srila Prabhupada, he brings lot of verses from various Upanishads in Bhagavad Gita, and principally he gives lot of verses from Shveta Upanishad. Sometime back, I think we have talked about two schools of Upanishad, Krishna Upanishad and Shukla Upanishad. Primarily, Shukla Upanishad emphasizes more on the God as a person, personality of Godhead. And then it comes Vedanta philosophy gives us an understanding of the four Chaturvarna, the four classes of men, the people in this world, and four classes of ashrama, or four ashramas, like where it ends with sannyas ashram. So that comes from the Vedanta philosophy. The school separate, again, it gets separated into 6 sub-schools. And that's where it gets bit bewildering. And Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj gives us a very beautiful understanding of why Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya gives us the complete understanding of this Vedanta philosophy. What are all the various schools and the commentaries on Vedanta philosophy? Advaita, which is given by Adi Shankaracharya. Then comes, which was the impersonalism was defeated by whom? Vishishta Advaita, which is given by Ramanujacharya. Then came Dvaita by Madhvacharya, which is our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And then the other aspects, the other 2 schools which are other than ours is a Dvaita Advaita, which is given by Nimbarkacharya. So in Dvaita, from Vishishta Advaita onwards, the primary emphasis from Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya, and Vallabhacharya or Vishnu Swami, which is the Dvaita Advaita is Nimbarkacharya, and Shuddha Advaita or Sampurna Advaita is Vishnu Swami or Vallabhacharya, which is coming from Rudra Sampradaya. Bhakti is the basis for all these 4 schools, Vaishnava schools. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought everything together in Achintya Bhedabhed Tattva, which is Baldev Vidyabhushan has given the Govinda Bhashya as the commentary on Vedanta in that. And what Mahaprabhu emphasizes, that the individual Jiva is both different and at the same time non-different from Brahma or from the Supreme Lord. Because he brings the mood of Shuddha Advaita and Dvaita together in Achintya Ved. Actually, all 4 schools of philosophy, Vaishnava schools, as well as the basis that Atma is the guiding principle, which is given by Adi Shankaracharya. So that is the basis of these philosophies Srila Prabhupada is giving us here in this long purport. And that's why Prabhupada is saying, Narayana, no one can be independent except Narayana. The reason we went through all these details of 6 schools of in our Sanatan philosophy, and then again 6 schools in the Vedanta philosophy itself, and Prabhupada is giving us the verdict here, basically, that no one can be independent except Narayana. And therefore, no one's knowledge can be perfect. For everyone's knowledge is dependent on the flickering mind. Mind is material, and thus knowledge presented by material speculators is never transcendental and can never become perfect. And that is the reason though Vaisheshika or Nyaya is very convincing, but still there is a room for mental speculation, and that is why we should be following the path of bhakti, which will be guided by the devotees. And obviously, as we talked about from Srila Jiva Goswami, if the Bhakti Devi is guiding, obviously the Lord will guide us automatically to go back to him. And that's why Prabhupada says that go back to Godhead, to the Supreme Lord. And then we will go to the next verse. I think we don't have enough time here. So this is in this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada is again extending what we talked about, the emphasis on disciplic succession. Why this particular disciplic succession of Shukadeva Goswami, which in Srimad Bhagavatam is the perfect one. And that's what Prabhupada is emphasizing here. Basically, it's a glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and all our scriptures. That is the importance in Prabhupada is giving us in this particular purport. So I think we will stop here because I think we went through all the essential points of this. Yeah, O learned Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of infallible infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, Pivatara Samalayam, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting. So, because the person, Parikshit Maharaj, when he was listening to Krishna Katha, he was not on that bodily platform. So that curse was basically void for Parikshit Maharaj. That's what this verse is telling us. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Are there any comments or any questions? No questions, no comments. Okay. Thank you very much. पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu, for nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the nice class.
Thank you Mataji. Thank you.